everybody, how are you doing today? It is so good to see you. It's almost midnight here in Australia and the Sony A7S III, 5 years almost in the making, is here. Well, most of what we talked about last week seems to have come true in regards to the Sony A7S version 3. It is 12 megapixels, which makes 4K video just reading pixel for pixel. There's no extra actions that have to be performed, so that's fantastic for video makers. It can do 4K 60 frames per second in 16-bit RAW. For people who want that, that's very impressive. Of course, the Nikon Z6 and 7 could do 4K 30 frames per second out to the Atomos Ninja in RAW, and this is a step up from that. Of course, there's an expectation that the Z6S and 7S will do the same sort of thing. And of course, Canon have got their own party going on when it comes to getting hot and getting high frame rates and getting big 8K. So everybody's going to do slightly different things. I think it's very exciting. And we've got to talk about the price. It's a good price. Sony have come in below their nearest competitor, and this makes it very compelling if video is your primary focus. Of course, if you're interested in an all-rounder, a powerful all-rounder, yes, sure, it has a few flaws, but it is an all-rounder and it can do the things it says it can do. That is the R5. Then you have a really difficult choice if you're in that space of wanting high-end video that's a little bit compromised here and there, or slightly less high-end but really very high-end video that's not compromised at all. So that's very exciting, and I do think that Nikon with the Z6S will come into this same space at the same sort of price point-ish. So it's very interesting, and the price is that price right there. $3,498. That's a compelling price. Look, it's expensive from what we expect from an entry-level camera, but this is not an entry-level camera. So for the video spec that it provides and the recording capabilities it has and the fact that it can work side by side with the Sony Venice systems, impressive. For the first time ever in these cameras, this is my A7S R3. It gets confusing, all of these different numbers. This has the old school style flip out screen. Well, for the first time ever, they are having a flip out, flip forwards screen in an alpha camera. This is a big deal, and clearly this camera is squarely focused at video users first and stills photographers second. Flippy screen. So the Canons have flippy screens. The latest Sony has flippy screens, and again, will Nikon follow suit? It'd be very interesting to see. And me being an original owner of the Sony A7R, the original A7R, and the A7R III, one of the things I didn't like about those cameras, well, still don't because they're still here in my hand, is the menus. Well, Sony have upgraded the menus, and from what I can see, yep, they look better. And they've also talked about the fact that when you're in photo mode, the menus are just do everything in relation to photography, and when you're in video mode, it does everything in relation to video. New menus, that's awesome, that's an amazing thing, and that's a step forward, and we can only be excited for Sony as to what this means the A7 IV will look like. And I think this will be definitely tipping its hat to the A7 IV, which in Sony's lineup is going to be their biggest all-rounder for stills. If it's at 24 to 30 megapixels, it's going to have a great amount of stills usefulness, and then it'll probably have pretty useful 4K. It'll have the new menu system. It'll have the flip-out screen, I'm sure, because that's what content creators kind of demand in this day and age. Sony are also saying, in regards to the color science, which I do think looks more natural, they're actually using the same color science that comes with their Cine cameras, like the Venice, and that you could use the A7S III alongside their Venice cameras as a B or C camera. And that starts to give us a little bit of an idea of what Sony are thinking about this camera. It could work alongside in film and TV production. Perhaps that's one of the reasons why the price is so high. And look, I think one of the most exciting things to come out for this camera, and we talked about it, we theorized on it in the previous video, the 12.1 megapixel BSI sensor effectively, Sony is saying, effectively removes rolling shutter. That is a fast moving sensor if it can effectively remove rolling shutter without having a real shutter, a real physical shutter. Another really important feature of this camera, which would be very exciting to many, I would think, is no recording limits. Just keep recording, I suppose, until you run out of space. And ISO, even so, the ISO is still the same 409,000, almost 500,000 of the previous A7S II. Because of the newer technology of this new sensor, it's much, much cleaner and it looks spectacular. And to be able to shoot in the dark, well, personally that's something that I've always loved to do. And that is why I loved my Nikon D3, its capacity to see in the dark like a cat. Well, this is doing that. And so again, for a certain niche market, perhaps photographers who really want a camera that works in the super dark, and as I talked before, surveillance agencies as well, along with filmmakers, are going to be able to shoot in 4K in very varied lighting conditions. I think it's a niche product. I don't think it's out there for everyone. The price is high. The resolution for stills is low compared to what we're used to in this day and age. But for a second camera, for someone who's got, say, an A7R IV, you really have both ends of the spectrum covered, the very best of video making and the very highest of stills. Not everybody wants two cameras though, do they? And that's where I suppose the Canon R comes in, where they've tried to squeeze a bit of everything into that one camera. I love the fact that these companies are having different strategies, and I still think the new upcoming, yet to be announced, but rumoured Z6S and Z7S will have a little bit of column A Canon and column B Sony. And it may well be the middle ground, the best of both worlds. Who knows? It's feeling a bit like that based on the rumoured specs, and now that we're seeing the Sony and we know what the R5 is. And then I think the final thing that's really exciting and really interesting is the passive cooling. And the camera was shot, I think it was at 4K 60p for over an hour, and it still didn't overheat, and this is in hot New York weather. So this is completely different to what Canon is achieving, but then the Canon camera is a completely different beast, whether you're talking about the R5 or the R6, higher megapixels, more all-rounder stills and video cameras. So as I said a couple of videos ago, it's great to see that we've got this camera from Sony. It is more of a niche camera. It's more focused on video, but it's going to do video extraordinarily well. But we should stick a pin in that, because the R5 does it too, just for shorter bursts. Yes, it's true, don't flame on me. And I'm really interested and excited to see what Nikon does in the next month or two with their new upgrades. So it's really interesting. The three major players, the three major camera companies are all getting out their next flagship products to keep us excited. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see the A7 IV pretty soon, maybe around the time that Nikon's cameras come out. So all three players, Canon, Nikon, Sony, they've all got exciting new products in the market. They have each got their pros and cons, which are interesting. Of course, we only have rumoured specs on the Nikon stuff, so I take that back slightly. It's not in the market yet, but we will know soon enough. And I think they're going to be really, really on par cameras, one way or another. And then you've just really got to choose on where your loyalty lies, where your legacy lies, and perhaps what just feels best in the hand. Because by 2021, I think, depending on your use case, any of the manufacturers are going to be able to fulfill your needs. But respect and kudos is due to Sony for coming up with a great 4K camera which will have fantastic low light capabilities at 12 megapixels with those very large pixels collecting a lot of light. So people who are in that space, it's a really exciting time for photographers. Of course, many of us don't need this technology, this level of technology. We don't need 4K, 60 frames per second, etc., and all the other things that this offers. But it does mean the camera companies are continuing to innovate and continuing to ensure that we've got things to keep us excited. But most importantly, get out there and create, take photographs if you can. Maybe you're in lockdown like we are here in Melbourne, Australia, and it's not that much fun right now, but summer will be here in another 3 or 4 months and it'll be very exciting with all these new products, and finally hopefully we can get out and be 100% free again. Anyway, as usual, it is fantastic to see you here. The internet is going to be absolutely full of Sony A7S III information. I'll let you guys go and surf around. I'm sure there'll be lots of official reviews dropping right about now as well. So good to see you. If this is your first time here, lovely to meet you. I look forward to seeing you again, so please subscribe, please share, please like, and look after yourself. Bye for now. Sony, Sony, Sony. Lots of Sonys. I got this one, the A7R, in 2013 when it first came out. And I got the A7R III in 2017. I think it was probably around about May. Check out this video I made here, where I call it a visual review. Some beautiful images taken around the Mediterranean when I took only this camera with me. I took a risk and just took this guy. It was good. Alright, see ya.